They dressed you in a wedding gown, placed a veil over your face, and handed you a list of your dowry. Then, they changed your name. From today on, you will no longer go by your original name. You are Sabina. It is a woman's name. It is the name of a dead woman. It is the name of the empress whom Emperor Nero kicked to death. Today, you are to marry that emperor. Today, the entire Roman Empire will acknowledge you as the Empress of Rome. You are 16 years old. You are a boy. This happened in the year 67 AD at the very heart of the Roman Empire, when you had absolutely no choice. The first half of your life was spent as Nero's empress. The second half would be claimed in turn by 3 emperors. You died at the age of 20. Before your death, you were ordered to publicly portray a mythological character being raped in the Colosseum. You chose to take your own life before that could happen. It was the only decision in your life that was truly your own. Your real name was not recorded in history. The name Sporus was given to you by Nero. It comes from the Greek word for seed. The name was a mockery. It implied you could not sow, that you could not bear children, that you had been transformed into an incomplete being and then named for that very incompleteness. What your original name was, no one knows. By the time you appeared in those records, you were no longer the person you once were. How you came to be before Nero is a matter of dispute. Some say you were a slave. Others say you were the child of a free woman. Whichever is true, your beauty is undeniable. You bear a striking resemblance to Nero's late wife, Poppaea Sabina. This resemblance wasn't vague. It was the kind that made anyone who had seen Poppaea stop in their tracks when they saw you. You had her facial structure, her eyes, her lips. Your face was the posthumous portrait of another person. Poppaea died in AD 65. The official account was childbirth complications. Another widely circulated version is that Nero, in a fit of rage, kicked her while she was pregnant. He kicked her to death, and then his heart broke. Both of these things are true at the same time. For a man like Nero, killing someone and loving someone could be two stages of the same thing. After Poppaea's death, Nero searched the entire empire. He wanted to find a woman who looked like her. He couldn't find one. Then someone brought you to him. You were a boy, but your face was Poppaea's. Nero saw you. He made a decision. You need to understand what kind of man Nero was. He was only 17 when he ascended the throne. He was the sort of man who saw himself as an artist rather than an emperor. He wrote poetry, he sang, he performed in plays, and he raced chariots in the arena. His early years of rule weren't too bad. His teacher was the philosopher Seneca, and for a time his reign was considered moderate. But there was an impulse within his character that nothing could restrain. He killed his mother and personally ordered executed. His mother, Agrippina, was a more politically astute woman than he was. He feared her, so he killed her. He blamed the Christians for the great fire of Rome and had them nailed to pillars and set alight to serve as lamps. He was the sort of man who regarded all the world's rules as optional, and your appearance proved just that. He ordered you to be castrated, not to punish you, but to preserve your face. The purpose of castration was to preserve your appearance. If a boy is castrated before puberty, his facial features will not change with development. His skin will remain soft. His contours will stay rounded. That face resembling Poppaea would remain with you forever. No one asked your opinion about this surgery. It simply happened. It wasn't because you committed any crime. It wasn't because of anything you did. It was because you had a face that Nero needed. After the surgery, your identity was redefined. You were called Sabina, called Empress, called Lady. You began to wear the attire befitting a Roman empress. You had a lady-in-waiting assigned exclusively to your wardrobe. Her job was to ensure daily that your attire met the standards of an empress. You were led into the court, into spaces that once belonged solely to Poppaea, and seated in the very spot where Poppaea had once sat. You are not Poppaea, but you were placed within the contours of Poppaea. The wedding was formal. There was a dowry, a wedding gown, a veil, and a torchlight procession. These were the standard rites of a Roman wedding, usually between a man and a woman. This time, it took place between an emperor and a 16-year-old boy. Officials from across the Roman Empire were in attendance. Not a single person spoke out against it because that man was Nero. The cost of speaking out was greater than that of accepting it. There had been weddings between men in Roman history, but those were usually private or semi-public. Your wedding was an official state ceremony, the emperor's wedding, and the entire empire was to know of it. In 67 AD, Nero took you on a tour of Greece. It was a grand journey. The emperor was to participate in various artistic and athletic competitions in Greece. He was to sing in the amphitheater and compete in chariot races. Of course, he won every race, not because he was the best, but because he was the emperor. No one dared to defeat him. Once, during a chariot race, he fell off and was unable to finish the race. The judges declared him the winner, because if he hadn't fallen, he would certainly have won. You followed him through all of Greece. You wore the empress's robes, adorned with the empress's jewels, seated in the place reserved for the empress. Everyone knew who you were, yet no one said a word. Sometimes, Nero would do something that left everyone present at a loss for how to react. He would have you reenact Poppaea's funeral. He would weep loudly, calling out her name, Sabina, Sabina. You stood there, dressed in her clothes, called by her name, becoming a prop in his mourning ritual. He used you to soothe the void left by her loss. You were the vessel of his grief, yet the sorrow you held, that sorrow does not belong to you. The one being mourned shares your face, but you are not her. You will never be her. Even Nero himself might know this, but he refuses to stop. The entire Roman Empire knew you were a man, yet not a single person dared to speak up. One Roman left behind a remark that historians have quoted for nearly 2,000 years. He said it would have been better for the world if Nero's father had married a wife just like Nero. The implication was that if Nero had been born to such a wife, he would never have existed. This was the Roman Empire's most subtle yet scathing public commentary on the matter. Privately, no one ever openly opposed it. Your life at court has its absurdities. You have status, you have servants, you have fine clothes and good food, but you must never forget the condition of your existence. You exist because you resemble another man. Your worth is equal to your resemblance to him. You are not yourself. You are the shadow of another man, and that man is already dead. Every day when you look into the bronze mirror, the face you see does not belong to you. You do not know what your own face looks like because you've never had the chance to possess a face that belongs solely to you. How do the others at court treat you? They call you Madam. They call you Her Majesty the Empress. They bow before you. They open doors for you. They stand behind you, waiting for your command. But what you see in their eyes is not respect. It is something complex. Confusion, disgust, a hint of deeply hidden sympathy. Sometimes it is the expression one wears when witnessing something truly bizarre. Yet not a single person speaks of it. To do so would cost them their lives. So they call you Her Majesty, the Empress, call you Sabina, call you Madam, and then speak other words where you cannot see them. Have you ever thought of running away? There is no answer to this question because running away requires a place to go. You are a person whose very name has been changed. What was your original life? Where is your home? Is there anyone waiting for you there? You don't know. Perhaps you do. Perhaps that place no longer exists. Perhaps even if you did escape, in your current state, with that face, you would be recognized on any street in Rome. That face leaves you with nowhere to run. In the court, you are the empress. Outside the court, you are the empress of a fugitive emperor. Neither is what you want. In the year 68 AD, Nero died. He lost all support in a political collapse. The Praetorian Guard mutinied. The Senate declared him a public enemy. He fled Rome. On the run, he had a slave slit his throat just minutes before the cavalry sent to hunt him down arrived. As he died, he said, "What a great artist I have lost." Those were his final words. Nero died, and you thought you were free. You were wrong. You were probably 17 the day Nero died. You thought it was all over. You thought you could reclaim your original name and return to some semblance of a normal life. But you underestimated one thing. You had the face of Poppaea. That face was a curse while Nero lived. After his death, it became a different kind of curse. As soon as Nero died, the commander of the Praetorian Guard, Nymphidius, snatched you up immediately. He had no personal feelings for you. What he needed was the authority that face represented. He paraded you through the streets for everyone to see. You were a trophy, showcasing the legitimacy of his power. Nymphidius wanted to become emperor. He thought displaying you would help him, that the lingering aura of the empire on that face would give him an edge. When the Romans saw you, they thought of Nero. They thought of imperial power. Nymphidius needed that association. Then he himself died within a few months. He had taken the wrong side in the political struggle. Someone killed him. You were left behind. Once again, left behind. Then you were given to Emperor Otto, the second emperor of the year of the 4 emperors. Do you know who Otto is? He was Poppaea's ex-husband, the man Nero had sent away so he could marry Poppaea. He married Poppaea, and then Nero took a fancy to her. Nero sent Otto to govern a distant province, effectively exiling. Poppaea married Nero, and then Poppaea died. Then you appeared. Now Otto possesses you, a person wearing Poppaea's face. Everyone in this cycle has been hurt by that face, including you. Otto committed suicide less than 3 months into his reign. His army was defeated on the battlefield by Vitellius. He didn't want to be taken alive, he chose death. Another emperor died beside you. You were handed over to Vitellius the third. You've lost count. Every time an emperor died, you thought it was over. Every time, you kept living, passed on to the next. Vitellius was a man known for his gluttony and cruelty. He didn't need that face. He needed a spectacle. He ordered you to the Colosseum to play a character from a myth in front of the public, a character who would be forced under the gaze of all Rome. This is Vitellius's entertainment. He wants all of Rome to see you standing before that command. You paused for a moment and chose to die before that. There are few details about your death. All that is known is that you took your own life. At around 20 years of age, your life was reshaped, named, transferred, and used. In 4 years, you lived through 3 emperors. You witnessed the end of a dynasty. You witnessed 4 changes in power. In all of this history, you were a bystander and a prop, never the protagonist. But in that final moment, facing Vitellius's command, you became the only one making the decision. Suetonius mentioned you in his biography of Nero. He placed your story in the chapter on Nero's scandals, between the rape of a virgin and other crimes. The historian Cassius Dio documented how you were passed from one emperor to another. They recorded you not because you were a person, but because you were proof of Nero's madness, because your story illustrated the kind of things the Roman Empire of that era allowed to happen. You are a footnote in history, an annotation to an emperor's character. But in that footnote, there is one thing you did. You chose how to die, not because you were brave, but because it was the only choice left. You had been stripped of all choices in your life. Your name was taken from you. Your body was altered. You were passed around as a gift. But Vitellius's order gave you one last chance to say no. You said no. With your death, you were named twice. The first time was Sporus. That was a mockery. The second was Sabina. That was a substitute. Neither was your own. What was your real name? No one knows. 2,000 years have passed. In those ancient texts, there is the day you were veiled, the wedding torches, and the gown prepared for the empress. But there is no mention of your original name. That name vanished the day you were brought into the palace. A man in ancient Rome once spoke a phrase that has endured for 2,000 years. He said, "If only Nero's father had married a wife just like Nero." This was meant to mock Nero, implying he should never have been born. Yet there is a hidden logic within those words. The wife he spoke of was you. You were the premise of that statement. The entire mockery was built upon your existence. You died at 20. Your name vanished. Yet someone used you to humiliate an emperor. That mockery outlived both the emperor and you. This is not the immortality you sought, but it is the only kind you received. Poppeia's face remains in those statues even after your death. Those statues are still in museums today. Some historians believe that the model for one of those statues might have been you, not Poppaea, because the skeletal structure of that statue is closer to that of a man. If they are right, that means your face is still in some museum today, seen by visitors, studied, and written about in academic papers. No one can name the true identity of that face, but that face remains. That face that is not yours, that face you were forced to bear for a lifetime. It is still there, in the marble, under the lights, 2,000 years after your death.